Let's go ahead and bring on our guest. His name is Trent Lucier. He is one of the mentors on our Sellers Club. He's a seasoned software developer. Came to Print on Demand in 2020. You can find him at Technically Trent on YouTube, as well as on our Sellers Club, as I just mentioned. And he specializes in blending art and technology. Trent, how you doing today? Welcome to the Clickster Riches Show.
Doing great, Martin. Thanks for having me here.
Wonderful. All right. Well, let's go ahead, Trent. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, my background's kind of more tech-based, like software development and stuff, but I always had an interest in art and design, and I kind of started getting into more digital design, like in 2018, when I got an iPad, would start to do art on that. And then, during COVID, somehow I discovered, print on demand and Etsy and that type of thing. And I just thought it was like so awesome that, I could put my designs on things. I kind of started with t-shirts, but then I found other stuff that I was interested in, like clocks and rugs and desk mats. And it just kind of blew my mind, like anyone could just put their art on this type of stuff. And that's kind of how I got into it initially.
Okay, wonderful. Now, I mentioned that you were one of our Sellers Club mentors. Can you tell us a little bit about what the Sellers Club is and what people can expect from you if they join one of your sessions on there?
Yeah, it's really about providing hands-on support with our members, like the sellers. And if you're a seller on Printify and you're looking for you have specific questions and you want someone to help you individually, that's what you can get on the Sellers Club. We have the mentors there have spaces where they're dedicated to certain topics like Etsy or Shopify or trend research. And we also have our private live streams there where you can join, you can ask your questions, and we'll be happy to answer them. So it's really just kind of a more personalized environment to get support.
Okay, sounds like a wonderful resource. You folks out there better be taking advantage of it, and you can do so with your first month free with code Launchpad2025. And don't worry, we're gonna mention it again a little bit later. But Trent, where did you learn your design skills? How did you become the designer that you are today?
Yeah, I kind of say, like a lot of people, I think I went to the University of YouTube, just kind of doing tutorials, Skillshare classes, and just kind of practicing things. One thing I recommend is, if you see designs you like online, there's this concept in art called the master study. So you can kind of take something and you try to recreate it as closely as possible, like identical. You don't do this to sell, but you do this to learn yourself. It's for a private, learning. And just kind of try to recreate like the designs you see, get the fonts right, get the composition right, see how the colors work, how are they doing textures, how are all these elements coming together? And you really learn a lot when you do that. So I recommend that for people who are looking to get started on how to learn design.
So what I'm hearing is basically this information is out there, and it's kind of up to you to go out there and seek it out. There's no need to spend a ton of money on expensive classes or anything like that, because that's one thing that's really cool about this industry. Whether we're talking about design or sales tips or anything like that, there's so much information out there, and the bulk of it is free. So I love the fact that that's how you came to your design prowess. Okay, but speaking of those tools that are out there, what's your go-to design software?
So I guess people who see my channel probably won't be surprised to say Affinity Designer is the one I like the most. It's a vector-based design program, and it's one-time payments. It's a desktop program, so it gives you lots of features in terms of handling fonts, vector graphics, color adjustments for images. Something I talk about also on my channel a lot is Canva. So that's another one people start with. I think it's a good place to start. It does kind of feel limiting if you've used other design tools. It kind of doesn't have certain features, but if you start there, it's a good way to begin. But I would have a long-term plan to move on to something kind of more heavyweight. And Canva, the company, actually bought all the Affinity programs, so it's kind of one company now. So we'll kind of see going forward, what type of integration there is there.
Okay, yet another example of mergers and acquisition in our industry. But yeah, Canva's probably the most popular out there. But folks, since it's Design Month on the Clickster Riches Show, our next episode that'll be going live on February 20th is going to tackle this topic. We're going to bring on representatives from Kittle, Creative Fabrica, and Mystic POD, three of the top design tools for print-on-demand sellers. And we're going to be discussing which one is right for you. So they're going to lay out exactly what it is they do, how they do it, and who it's for, so you can decide which one is the best one for you. And that's our next episode on February 20th. But let's not get off track here, Trent. Let's go into some advice. So what advice do you have for people out there with like zero experience in design and want to be successful in POD, like people at the beginning of their journey?
Yeah, like I said, I would say choose one simple tool. Don't get overwhelmed with all the options out there. A lot of concepts will translate to other things, so you don't have to worry about getting all your knowledge is going to be limited to one tool or something like that. So as you learn other stuff, a lot of the common concepts will migrate to it. So I'd say, just choose a tool. Don't stress over it too much. And then from there, like I said earlier, find examples of what you like and try to recreate them for learning purposes. Like just find simple text designs, do that. Find simple graphic designs, try to work on that. And just kind of build your knowledge as time goes on. You're never going to be done learning. So it's kind of get used to that process of always continuously improving your skills.
Yeah, and that's what's cool about all these tools that are available out there is that most, if not all, have like a free version or a trial version that you can try to see like which one like speaks to you. So that's actually great advice, Trent. But let's talk about let's talk about something our audience can put to work like right away. What are the top 5 design mistakes you see beginners make?
Yeah, so I kind of have seen these things based on, reviewing shops and getting feedback and stuff like that. And I do have some examples. If you want me to like actually walk through them, we can show as I talk about them, if you'd like.
Sure. We're gonna the first one we're gonna show is rectangular designs.
Yeah, so I should start by just saying I made these examples for demonstration purposes, so we're not actually slamming real life shops or anything like that. But these are kind of some of the things I see often. So this first one, rectangular designs, there's nothing like technically wrong with it. I mean, there's shirts that have sold 1 million copies and they're based on a rectangle, but it's just kind of the default thing you see beginners do a lot. They just find a square image and they throw it on a t-shirt and they don't really move beyond that. And I think it kind of robs the design of a lot of the power. Like you don't get like the silhouette or anything like that. It just kind of looks like it wasn't really fully designed or thought through. So it's not the end of the world, but it does kind of look like a beginner's effort in a lot of situations. And one other thing I would say is that a lot of times, like this example I have on screen, when you see like the skull with the black background behind it, people will put like a black background on their image and they'll think that makes it look transparent because it's on a black hoodie or something. But actually the black in an image doesn't really match the black of the shirt. So it's not going to look quite correct. Same thing with like a white background on a white shirt. So I recommend trying to get like truly transparent elements and building a composition up from that. I think it'll just looks more visually interesting that way. So this is kind of the most common thing I see in a lot of new shops.
Okay, and then before we move on to our next example, this is a great opportunity for us to remind our audience that if you have questions for Trent about anything that he's covering, pop those into the chat, and our moderator Talis will collect them, and we'll address those during the Q&A portion. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our next example. Now, this one is fonts and types. What do you have for us, Trent, on fonts and types?
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge subject. And again, some people, that's all they do is fonts and types. So like you could make your whole life studying that. My kind of Cliff Notes version of this would just be make sure the fonts are appropriate for the subject matter. So different fonts have different kind of feelings or different associations with them. I have this design here of like surfing on the left. And the two fonts, the one above it is kind of like this futuristic font, and the one below it is almost like a typewriter or something. And those aren't really the kind of things you want to associate with surfing. You want kind of more organic, natural fonts, something that looks a little more fun and playful. The one on the right, you can see there's lots of mixed fonts, and some really great designs on t-shirts have like these mixed font compositions, but it's tricky to get various fonts to look good together. And this is again comes to my advice on finding, examples of shops or designs that do it well and just study what they do. Another resource I like for fonts is if you find like Creative Fabrica or Creative Market, search their fonts selections. And a lot of times you'll see great examples with the fonts themselves, like how they're used, like the thumbnails for the font packages. They'll give you great ideas of like what fonts go well together or how to like decorate the fonts, what colors go well with them. So like I said, this is kind of it's definitely a art, not a science. There's no like strict rules you can say. It's just experience. But fonts are definitely something that can kind of scream like, beginner or more advanced designer.
Yeah, and on your little surfer design there, I think of like a text element, like I think of the ocean. So I want something like that's wispy or that's like fluid and stuff like that, that sort of matches the idea that that image conjures in your mind. But
Exactly.
I like where your head's at, Trent. Let's go ahead and check out your next example here. Now, this is a topic that is super hot right now. Like, let's talk about AI. This is generic AI. What do you have for us on robots today?
Yeah. So, yeah, you said AI is a huge topic. I mean, definitely that's like an understatement. It's everything these days almost. And I'm not against AI designs or art at all. I actually have lots of tutorials about it on my channel. But there's kind of like a default generic look that I think we all kind of recognize these days. It's just kind of been the way it's been for a couple of years, kind of like the rainbowish things or the too computer graphic-y things. And, I recommend people, whatever AI tool they use, kind of get into some of the more advanced styles. There's certainly many tools like Midjourney these days are capable of making designs that are far more expressive and more varied art styles than kind of what we've seen in just kind of the generic things that we've been getting. And this is kind of people know what it looks like these days. Buyers are getting very sophisticated to the AI designs, so you have to actually put more effort into thinking about how to create them.
Yeah, do you think that's here to stay? This sort of like obvious, like like when you're looking at an AI design, like there's that part of your brain that automatically recognizes it as being AI, or is this just because we're in the beginning stages of this whole thing? I mean, what do you think the future of that is going to look like?
Well, I think the future is now. The people that are using it correctly, people don't know that they're using AI. There is like very high-end designs that just look like they're actual real paintings done by people, or actually pencil art or watercolor art. I mean, if you go to Creative Fabrica, I can guarantee you almost anything you see that's created after 2024 was created with AI, regardless of like, whether it looks AI or not. Just you can tell just by the volume sometimes of how much these creators create. When someone creates like, 1,000 watercolor images in a week, they're using, AI
Yeah, I
or something.
suppose so. I suppose
But
so. Yeah.
yeah, and I just kind of say like, creating this goes to earlier, like who's the customer? Creating pretty pictures, anyone can kind of do it these days. It's becoming a commodity. You have to create the images that match with your audience and like what they want. So that's really what the differentiator is going forward.
Yeah, and I suppose like AI prompt writing is really becoming like a skill, like it's
Like
a
an
almost
art
like
in
it's yeah,
itself.
it's an art
Yeah.
in itself. So, but wonderful. Yeah, I'm
Definitely.
very interested in this aspect of the business. But let's go ahead and move on. We've got product and design fit. I'm interested to hear your take on this.
Yeah, this kind of goes a little bit to what was mentioned earlier, and I kind of mean design fit, like literally and figuratively. Like, does it physically fit on the products correctly, and also does it make sense on that product? And a lot of times, what happens is I'll see new designers. They'll have, like I said, a rectangle or something. They'll fit great on one product, like a mouse pad, but then they'll try to put it on other things too, and it doesn't quite match. Like physically, it doesn't match. So you'll have like this white space there. And then kind of the other thing is, does it logically make sense on the product? So, we have this design here, can't stop loving you. Maybe it's nice for a Valentine's Day card or something. Do people really want it on a shower curtain? I'm not sure. You could, but I see this all the time. I think people just kind of, it's so easy to put your designs on many products that they'll just put it on everything. But, it's really, you want to make sure it makes sense on the thing you're putting it on.
Yeah, and I think it's important to just point out that our brains are hardwired to recognize patterns. That's just what we do. It's kept us alive, all these years. So when you create a design and you're looking at it and it just feels off, it's important to trust that instinct. Yeah.
Yeah, and something I recommend doing is like when you make a design, like sleep on it or give it like a week or so, go back and look at it later, zoom out, step away from your computer for a bit. That gives you a fresh perspective also on these patterns.
Yeah, good tip. Let's go ahead and check out your last example. Now, branding, a very important topic we touched on a little bit earlier. I'd love to hear your take on this.
Yeah, so like branding is good. I'm not against it. I think one of the issues though is that people all they have for their brand is just a word. Like they have this idea and they say, okay, my company is going to be called whatever, street fashion. And I'm just going to put that on a bunch of products and that's going to be what sells. And that works if your brand is, already supported somewhere else. Like if you actually have a large following online or something, or maybe you're selling, you're selling t-shirts with a fitness brand and you actually have a gym with that name, sure, go ahead and make merch for it. But a lot of times, like if you're just starting with a name that you're going to put on products, people don't really connect with that. The reason Nike is can charge so much is because they spend billions of dollars associating their brand with athletes and all this kind of stuff. When you're just kind of starting by yourself with only a name, people don't really make that association.
Okay, yeah, I mean it's great for like Dolce and Gabbana, but let's face it out there, folks, we're not quite Dolce and Gabbana yet. But hey, listen to the Clickster Riches Show, get some mentorship from Trent. You'll be there in no time. Okay, wonderful. Well, I appreciate you taking us through those examples, Trent. But I want to hear a little bit from our audience. So, Leah, if you wouldn't mind, what are the questions directly from our audience today?
We have a lot of really good questions, and this first one is actually for Trent, right, on this brand topic. And 2 people asked about it. Do you suggest having my brand logo on products, on all of my products? Should I work them into my design somehow? What's kind of your take on that?
Good question.
Yeah, again, I think if it's like merch for something that exists already, go for it. Like if you have a YouTube channel or you have, a company or a business and you want to put that on something, maybe your fans can buy it. But my recommendation would be if they don't know what your name is outside of the product they're looking at, probably it's not going to be a selling factor, right? So again, it's do they know who you are already before they look at the product? That would kind of be my determining factor.
Okay.
Random Toaster Bob has a good question. Should I focus on text designs or graphics? What are the benefits of text designs?
Yeah, text designs, they look deceptively simple, but they can actually be quite sophisticated. And as I said when I showed the font one, text is a whole field in and of itself, typography. I would say go with it because text, a lot of the trending designs are based on text, based on a phrase, based on, quotes, make sure they're not IP quotes, as you said earlier. But it's hard for me to say, like, it depends on what your interest is because that's going to influence it the most. But not knowing that, I would say text is probably one I would look at to begin with.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, and like you were saying earlier, there's a million different fonts out there. Just make sure that that font is applicable to your target audience. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
What else do we have from our audience?
Yeah. My Vo, so also kind of do with like IP licensing. If we're using design elements from Canva Pro, do we need to check on licensing/reuse before we use them for our products, or are they there for us to use without licenses required?
Another good question.
Yeah, you'll have to check the Canva licensing terms. They have descriptions of it. There's like, if you're using their elements, you have to kind of make a certain number of modifications, if I remember correctly. Like if they have a flower, you can't just put the flower on a shirt and sell it, if I remember correctly. But if you put text around it and you put some other graphics around it, you can kind of build it up. So I would check the Canva licensing terms. I mean, this is kind of a legal question. So check the Canva licensing page. And they show some pretty clear examples, if I remember correctly, of like do's and don'ts, like what is enough modification of a design element versus not enough modification.
Yeah, but this just goes along with what we were talking about earlier about putting your own spin on the design. Because again, you have to find the value that other people, that your competition isn't providing. And one surefire way to do that is put your own stamp on it and differentiate yourself from other sellers out there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right. You have to remember, like if something was low effort for you, it's low effort for other people too. So.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Very good. I might put that on a T-shirt. That's
some moment merch?
Yeah, exactly.
Clickster Riches moment merch?
Clickster Riches moment merch. Great. What else do we have?
Yeah. This is a really good question. Another one from Random Toaster Bob. What kind of AI prompts do you use to make non-generic designs? Any styles to recommend?
Yeah, so I use Midjourney a lot. And one of the things that's great about that program is there's a tab where you can explore other people's designs that are public. And you can just get so many ideas from that. So you can like craft your own prompts, but you can also just explore like thousands and thousands of other people's art styles visually. And I think kind of visually browsing the results is much better than doing prompts. You can do prompts, of course. You're going to do the prompts for like specifically what you want. But in terms of the actual styles themselves, you can search other people's stuff. What's also becoming common, and this is happening on Midjourney, which again is midjourney.com. It's an AI image generation tool. They have a system now where you can basically just do endless surveys of what you like in terms of imagery. Like they'll give you 2 images and you just choose the one you like, and you just keep doing that over and over again. And it kind of builds up a profile of the styles that appeal to you. So you can actually use the style that appeals to you. It's just like a tag, and you can append that to your prompt, and your prompt will be something that's more what you like.
Yeah, my go-to is ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT to help me write these prompts. It's actually super quick, super easy. So don't sleep on that free resource as well. Okay,
that's cool too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have time for one more question. So Leah, pick out the
There are
pick
so
out the
many
best
good
one.
questions. We can't get all of them, sorry. But last question from Nick. Any tips for drinkware design? Want to sell some water bottles, but can't seem to nail the vertical design.
Ooh, good question. Good questions.
Yeah,
Interesting.
really good questions.
Yeah. So this is going to be like again, like the product design fits. And I suppose like you're just gonna have to find out like what's that aspect ratio. I don't know the exact aspect ratio he's talking about, but on your niche, if there's things that are taller, like if it's summer, surfboards or things are taller, you might need to look more into like vertical text instead of kind of the horizontal text, because with drinkware, it's a cylinder type object. So it's very hard for people to see like, all sides of a cylinder at the same time, unless you're a Picasso or something. So there's going to be a very narrow sliver of like a cylindrical object that they can see. So keep that in mind when you're designing.
Yeah, that's all part of what we mentioned earlier about finding tailoring your designs for the product specifically, because we have these awesome what do we call them? These like big mugs?
They're tumblers.
They're
I
tumblers,
think, right?
yes.
Big tumblers.
And this is a harbinger of a new aspect of what we offer here at Printify in terms of our printing capabilities, because these aren't necessarily printed; they're engraved. Okay, I don't know if you can see this. There's a little bit of but there's some really nice, really nice engraving that's done on here. You can find this in the early access catalog on Printify. It's just a great opportunity now that this question came up to highlight some of the stuff that we're doing here at Printify, and we had these behind our desk, hoping for a chance to feature those. But thank you so much, Trent, for sharing your wisdom with us. But the party doesn't have to stop here, ladies and gentlemen, because Trent is available not only on his YouTube channel, but also on the Sellers Club, and you can connect with him and enjoy the benefit of his wisdom there. Sign up for a month free using Launchpad 2025 and take advantage of what Trent has to offer. Thank you so much, Trent, for sharing your time with us today. It was an absolute pleasure, but we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here, okay?
Thank you.